Morning, everybody. Over the weekend, this tweet was sent, and well, I think the arrogance is showing. You know, it's like the crazy socks. It's peeking out or completely blatant, and I can't believe this tweet was sent. Amir Atran at Prof. Mitterrand says, quote, "Conservatives have a strong lead among those who have not attended college or university, while liberals have a lead among those with university education." That was all quoted. The party of the uneducated. Every poll says this. And he links to Abacus data. And then he says, update, hundreds of conservative trolls are irked by my tweet. They seem not to notice the long quotation from a pollster whose data show that conservatives are comparatively less educated. If you don't like the data, shooting the messenger doesn't change anything. Ooh, doubling down on your ignorance. I love it. And then he says, update. I say update. He says another update. Many conservatives are viciously angry with me for showing polling data, but they can't or won't disprove the data showing that the least educated vote conservative. Why? It takes strength to face uncomfortable facts. Not doing so is a type of cowardice too. Oh, calling people out for cowardice because you believe in your data that much. It's interesting. Here is Daryl Bricker, and he says, a single online poll with a margin of error in each educational category, more accurate to say conservatives and liberals may have slightly different educational preferences. One group not more educated than the other. And whichever way you believe this should be looked at, I think that doubling down this much on calling people stupid is a little bit petty. I mean, regardless of how smart you are, it doesn't matter when you're the kind of guy who Nelsons people, right? Ha ha, right? Like, is that the kind of person that you are, Amir, Mr. Atran? Yeah? Okay. Well, I mean, you've shown your true colors, so you can double down if you want to think you're better than everybody. But sometimes it's not just about the IQ. Sometimes it's about more than that. However, the Laurentian News Service doesn't care. They say, quote, of Mr. Atran's tweet, they say, quote, noted Ottawa professor points out the dangers of tradespeople and other uneducated demographics wielding political power. Ha! The dangers of tradespeople and other uneducated people wielding political power. Well, what happens, Laurentian News Services, when someone like a drama teacher gets control of a country? Let's have a look.
And what do you and your family do to cut back on plastics?
We have recently switched to drinking water bottles out of when we have water bottles out of a plastic. Away from plastic towards paper. Like drink box water bottles, sort of things. There's a number of choices we can make as consumers.
Right. So the party of the educated, everyone, they want us to believe. Next time that your toilet is plugged, you guys fix it. How's that? You don't like tradespeople so much? You build your own walls. You build your own houses. What is wrong with this picture? Like, what? Really? What is wrong with this picture? Looking down their noses at the people who fundamentally, with their hands, build and maintain this country, right? You fix your own electrical. Do you know how hard that is? Do you know how high that is? I don't like heights. Just that alone would eliminate me from that job. And these people don't understand that. When somebody's basement is flooding because something's backing up or something's broken at midnight and the plumber gets up out of bed and says, well, yeah, it's double time, but I'm going to fix it. Is that who you're trying to vilify here? Is that what's going on? Because it seems kind of petty, right? And also really tone deaf. You got water bottles and boxes, Justin? What are you talking about? Party of the educated. Come on. Okay, Global News says 5 things to know about how Canada handles immigration detainees. And I am shocked at this. I'm shocked. The treatment of migrants has recently been thrust into the spotlight as accounts emerge of overcrowding and unsanitary conditions in America and American border detention facilities. Here's a look at how Canada deals with immigration detainees. The Canadian Border Services Agency, CBSA, can detain foreign nationals as permanent residents under certain conditions, including if they pose a security risk or are unlikely to appear for immigration proceedings, but must first consider all reasonable alternatives. The CBSA says the physical and mental health and well-being of detainees are key considerations. So detaining these people in areas that would be self-contained is not the first option. The first option is to find somewhere for them to live in the community. And when you hear the numbers here, and before we get going, I want to show, here's the Immigration and Refugee Board of Canada. Here's their own numbers. 41,000 people have come in to Canada irregularly because they don't use illegally because I don't know, because the UN doesn't like that word, but it is illegal to cross the border at the place that these people, most of them, are crossing. And so keep that in mind when we are talking about these numbers, okay? 41,000 people have crossed over, okay? More than that, but that's their number. But anyway, okay, here we go. A person may be detained at a CBSA immigration holding center in Toronto, Laval, Quebec, or Vancouver. In other regions, people may be held in provincial jails. The Toronto center can hold up to 195 detainees, while the Laval one can house up to 109. The CBSA says both provide separate accommodation for men and women and families, have outdoor recreational areas, provide daily meals, access to games, television, and telephones, visitation areas, and medical services. Vancouver is at the city's airport and can hold up to 24 detainees for up to 48 hours. Right. Men and women are held separately while children may be housed with their mothers. The facility has common rooms, access to games, televisions, and telephones. The CBSA says everyone in its holding centers gets 3 meals and 2 snacks per day, and special dietary needs such as food allergies or specialized diets are catered to. The agency says it relies on provincial correctional facilities to hold higher risk detainees, such as those with a violent criminal background, lower risk detainees in areas that don't have an immigration holding center, and those detained for more than 48 hours in the Vancouver area. It says it tries to minimize interaction between immigration and criminal detainees. Immigration? Refugee? My illegal border crossers are now being conflated with immigration? That's incorrect, Global News. Fix that. That's not right. Back to this. The CBSA says there were 6,609 people detained in holding centers in 2017-18, up from 4,248 a year earlier. There were 1,831 detainees held in jails last year, compared to 971 in 2016-17. Let's add those numbers up. So there's the total, right? You see all the numbers there, 13,659. And well, we had 41,000 people cross. So where's the rest of them? They're released on their own recognizance to come back for their immigration trial. I wonder what the statistics are for people who show up or who don't show up. That's interesting. So that's a lot of people, and that's a big discrepancy. Back to the article. Stephanie Silverman, who is with migrant advocacy group Thinking Forward Network, says detainees have their cases reviewed at certain intervals, the first within 48 hours of detention, again after 7 days, and then every 30 days until their detention is resolved. It can only be really resolved through release into the community, usually on conditions, or through deportation, says Silverman, noting there's no limit on how long a person can be held. It could be 48 hours before you get out, it could be 3 months, or it could be 5 years. This program hasn't been running 5 years, I want to note that. In 2017-18, the CBSA reported that 3.8% of detainees were held for more than 99 days. Only 3.8%. So that means after 99 days, 97% of them are released into the community. What does that mean? The implications of that are very, very concerning, considering that we're talking about people who aren't being released into the community, which shouldn't be happening in the first place. But anyway, they're being released into the community after Canada knows that they either have a criminal history or they're too violent or there is a reason that they were detained. And so 97%, let's say 96%, just to be fair, 3.8, it's closer to 96, are out within 99 days. Unbelievable. 47% were held for 24 hours or less. The rest were held somewhere between 25 and 48 hours and 40 and 99 days. The CBSA estimates it costs approximately $320 per day to detain someone. Janet Dench, executive director of the Canadian Council for Refugees, says those in immigration holding centers are afforded an adequate amount of food and water but have limited amenities. They're not allowed to have internet access, which makes it very difficult for them to communicate with family members or others that may be able to help them get the documents that they need, she said, adding that detainees also have restricted access to phone calls. The CBSA says that it provides on-site access to NGOs and the legal counsels at holding centers where possible, and notes that a detainee can ask to speak to a CBSA officer at any time or ask to see a legal counsel or an NGO rep. Pause. This is me again. What in the world? NGOs? Get them gone. I would make them illegal all the way across Canada. This is ridiculous. Non-governmental agencies having a hand in immigration is just a private way to funnel private money into quote unquote helping these people get into other countries. And that is not a net benefit to Canada. They're using legal craft. They're weaponizing our legal system in order to extend the service and extend the stay. And so 6 years, it takes, instead of a month or 2 months to have a quick hearing and like, no, sorry, you don't qualify. See you later. They know these people don't qualify. I've talked about that many times on my show. I can provide a link, but still the legal avenues for appeal are such that they can just keep coming back. They can just keep coming back with it. And it doesn't make a lot of sense. So it doesn't make a lot of sense unless you are wanting to aid and abet these people in having a successful claim to stay in Canada. And if you look at the history of what our immigration officers have been doing, specifically in Vancouver, where connected Chinese triad bosses come in with dark money, with suitcases full of money, and purchase houses, et cetera, and just churn. They're known to police, and yet they cannot be deported. They have things expunged. It is incredible what's going on. And so it is very, very strange that these NGOs have full access to, and I'm not blaming NGOs saying they have something to do with the triads. I'm just saying that the more fingers in this pot, the more likely it is, the more money to exploit and take advantage of our legal system. It's not okay, and it doesn't help Canada. Unbelievable. Back to the article. The agency also says it has on-site medical, nursing, psychological, and psychiatric care with CBSA-run facilities. Those with special needs are dealt with on a case-by-case basis, it says. I scroll down a little bit. We're talking about people here who have not been accused of any crime, and yet they are treated according to the rules that are invented and problematic in themselves for people who are accused or convicted of a crime, she says. It's completely unfair. These people crossed illegally between border crossing areas. If they had crossed the way they should have crossed, they would be rejected from Canada, and that should be what is happening with these people too. They are committing a crime. Yes, they should be detained, and it should be dealt with in a different way, not letting them complete their ill-fated border crossing and then spend 6 years here to build a life here and then say, oh, but we've been in Canada so long, we're almost Canadian, just let us stay anyway. No, that's not how this works. There are a lot of people waiting to come in here legally. You don't get to take up the spots because you came illegally. It's not okay. The law applies. Period. Rule of law is one rule of law for everyone. Not, I have special circumstances, so this law doesn't apply to me. The law applies. That's the point. Okay, back to the article. Leaving can be hard. For a migrant to be deported to another country, both countries have to agree to the person leaving one state and coming to another, says Silverman. Deportation is a two-way agreement between states and not so much contingent on the individual, she says. There has to be an admission or an entrance of some sort into another state. If neither the state nor the person leaving the country can verify the detainee's identity, the person has to prove it from inside a detention center, which can be hard, Silverman says. For immigrants with a criminal record, the process can be even more difficult. Certain states don't issue travel documents for nationals who have been convicted of crimes in another country, which could also lengthen the detention process, Silverman says. And yeah, I mean, it's pretty incredible that we're looking at a situation where criminals are being basically ushered out of one country they're, running from basically, and coming to Canada. And well, we're saying, well, this makes it really hard to, identify who you are, et cetera, et cetera. Why are we trading our safety for this? And we are trading our safety for this. The shootings, I'm subscribed to CP24. There were 4 or 5 shootings overnight last night. Like one in Mississauga and Etobicoke, a couple in North York and downtown Toronto. Like, not to say this didn't used to happen, but there's been a shooting every day of the last week, at least one. And as I said, overnight, last night, three. I think three. But at least three in the last 24 hours, certainly. Like 2 overnight, and then 1 before I went to bed, like 7 o'clock or something like that. There was another shooting. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. I'm going to stop this video here. I have another one to do, and I'm going to go right into it. But I feel like I've made my point on this one. This is important, and this is avenues upon avenues to exploit our system to make things difficult when the fact that they don't qualify for any status in Canada comes up, and they are then slated for deportation, right? And it's like, well, now I've got 6 years of history here, because that's how long it takes, between 5 and 6 years to get a hearing. It's incredible. Okay, here's the link. Here's the link for the less than 1%. Fewer than 1% of more than 28,000 irregular asylum seekers, illegal border crossers, have been removed from Canada so far. And this is May 7th, 2018. And I'll just read this for you here. While just over 28,000 asylum seekers have crossed the border into Canada irregularly since the beginning of last year, fewer than 1% of those have been removed from the country. Those figures come as senior government ministers maintain they expect that close to 90% of those who cross the border at unofficial points of entry will see their application to stay fail. So they already know. That's what I was saying earlier. They already know that these people don't qualify, and yet we're giving them all of this time, all of this runway. We should have a different policy. We should not be allowing this. This is a travesty. And that's where I'm going to end this video. I'm going to have another video coming up right away. So thanks for watching. Check out thepeoplespartyofcanada.ca and have a wonderful, wonderful day.